is Jessica Webster.
And this is Sam Pogue of the Fitness Break Room podcast. Sit back, take a well-deserved break, and learn about the journey that helps shape the most successful fitness professionals in the industry today. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fitness Break Room podcast. We're your hosts, Sam Pogue, Jessica Webster, joined by a super special guest today. I'm all about making sure expectations are managed. Mr. Markus Gerszi, founder of Gym Right and the network. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Happy to be on.
That wasn't as grand of an intro as you gave Dr. Quinn earlier, but
What?
I know.
But that means his message is going to be
More grand?
Under promise, over.
Oh, right.
There
We
you go.
don't even know who this person is. We just need an extra
I
show.
was just parking out in front. They were like, "Hey, you ever been on camera?"
And you have parallel parks on schedule.
I said no to both, but yeah, here we are.
Yay, it's so great to see you again. I don't know if you guys are aware of the World Business Podcast. Markus and I were co-hosts, Grandmasters of Awesome, and now Markus and JD are owners of Gym Right, which is the next evolution.
Exactly right. It's the next evolution. We worked together on World Business Podcast and with Mike for many years, and it was an awesome partnership.
Super fun.
And now we're focusing in and just kind of dialing what we're doing with our gym owners and doing it under a new brand called Gym Right. And I launched a little bit earlier this year, and it is off to a phenomenal start.
Where did the name come from?
The name Gym Right is a spin off of the word Gym Right, or excuse me, it's a spin off of itself. Follow me there. Off of shipwright or millwright, right? So if you have someone who's like a shipwright, they're a master builder or repairer of ships, right? So with a mill. So the idea was, well, what do? We build the best gyms on the planet. So we're Gym Right. So
Nice.
it's like
Love it. Very cool. Okay, so today we're in your new co-working office. Can you tell us a little bit about this place? This is kind of amazing.
This place is amazing. I have actually had my eye on this building. So I used to live right down the street. We're in San Clemente, California, a little beach town. And I used to live like a half a mile from here. And I would drive past this building every single day, back and forth, back and forth. I always saying, someday I'm going to have that building. And I'm not kidding, for 10 years, every day, back and forth, right here. And it was always occupied by this this marketing agency. And it just made it had looked really, really cool, and it was just never available. So anyway, this is an old Hanson, so it's a historical building in San Clemente. So if you're familiar with a little bit about San Clemente or not, this was the original set of homes built by Ole Hanson, the gentleman who founded San Clemente. Been around for a long time. These are all historical buildings. They can't be touched, they can't be altered. So they're these beautiful old Spanish style, like epitome of Southern California beach town homes. And again, this place was occupied forever. And then a few weeks back, it turned up as available and literally locked it down in like 3 hours. I was just like, it just showed up like, and only things to wants them to like. Yeah, and the guy who owns it is kind of like a local, everyone knows him, he's a long-standing local guy, owns a few properties here in town, and he's just like, he's all about like locals first, and so that's total story.
If you know anything about Markus, he loves quality and fancy stuff. And I'm not at all surprised that this place is like that, which is why Gym Right is such a great product. It's super fancy, super high quality, and it's always, in my experience working with you, it's always about adding that extra flavor of like those extra little touches, right? So it's like the most inspiring place I can see. Really.
Yeah, so really excited to share this episode with y'all because I met Markus earlier this year in February, March, I think is when it was, at the Barbell Business Mastermind. And this, as you've heard us on the episodes before, that this was like a super concept. It was going to be a coaching business. And it was an idea that had been kind of steeping in my head and potentially like something to bring to market. And Markus and I sat next to each other at the mastermind and really got to talk and chat a lot about what this could be, and him giving me a lot of expert advice and his realm of developing others, being in the fitness industry. And so it's special to come full circle and be able to sit here 8 months, God, I can't even count, a certain amount of months later, because I don't want to do math in my head.
Unspecified.
Yeah. To like talk about this new evolution of what this product became. So it's really fun for us and for me to be here and doing this. And Jessica and Marcus have a long time friendship, who you guys have heard on her show that she was at his CrossFit once upon a time, which is how she got into CrossFit. And it's like, I don't know,
which is how I got into fitness marketing. Like, he was the reason I'm like here. Totally.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't even know where I would be if I didn't meet you and Scott at that CrossFit gym.
Well, feelings mutual.
Aw.
It has been so awesome to, I mean, for one, as just a friend and as a person to just have you in my life, but to watch your evolution coming into the gym as someone who was doing marketing in a company you weren't really very excited about, to falling in love with CrossFit at Active and watching you really just evolve so quickly into just the freaking badass that you are. So it's exciting to sit here with you on your show. And Sam, same thing with you. This was just an idea less than a year ago. We're sitting, chatting about this concept, and now we're all getting to do it together. So
Yeah.
so pumped for you guys. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
we're like
much.
25 shows in now.
Yeah, this might be 24, 25, somewhere in there.
So yeah, it's happened fast. And I think that's another thing that is important to talk about, is like the allies that you call in, the community that you surround yourself with. We all surround ourselves with people who are like, they just do stuff, they just like go hard. When you have an idea, you don't wait around for anything. And so
We're all good, man. Oh. Thanks, man.
it's okay. Getting a lot of packages here.
We ordered a sick amount of furniture, and it's just like throughout the day, it just keeps coming
Oh,
in.
that's exciting.
It is, because you open and you're like, oh, what's here? Oh, end table.
it's like
oh,
Christmas.
coffee table. Oh, pink couch.
Amazing. You guys ordered that pink couch?
Fuck yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't
wait,
think
can I
we'll edit
swear? I'm
any of this
sorry.
out. This is fine.
Yeah,
This is
I don't
part of the
give a
thing. Anyway, like we
Organic.
were saying, Marcus, I'd love you to tell your story. That's a good segue, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Which part of it?
I want to hear everything from when you were a wee boy growing up with entrepreneur parents, because I feel like
Puberty
it started
is
there.
definitely a super important one for us.
Yes. Well, this is going to be a pretty big share.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess, I grew up here, Southern California. Both my parents were small business owners. They were, I'm first generation here in the States. My parents are all all two of them, from Austria. And so they moved here. There was a whole immigration in the late 70s to Southern California. So there's a really big community of Europeans from Austrians, Swiss, Spaniards, Italians that all kind of got together here in Southern Orange County, and kind of grew up in this bubble of just everyone in this kind of immigrant community. They were all self-employed. No one worked for anyone. Everyone was like, I'm a mechanic, so I ended up opening my own mechanic shop, or I'm a baker, I own a couple of bakeries. And it's that's just what everybody did. And so I had a really cool, I think, unique environment growing up, where it was just everyone's kids worked with the parents, and I worked for my friends' parents, and just was constantly surrounded by self-employed or full-on entrepreneurs. And it's kind of all I knew growing up. And my parents both, ran small businesses here in Southern California. My mom still has her salon. She's had for 35 years. And my dad's been in the car dealing business forever. And I just grew up working in their businesses and helping them, and wearing literally every hat, from cleaning toilets to helping with sales to helping my dad open a new business and sell that business, and vacuuming cars and everything in between.
Have any of those odd jobs translated into what you're doing now?
I think all of them do. I think for one, it's really important for people who are really trying to come up, especially if you're trying to run a business in the future and have a team and lead a team, to have the experience of working all the different levels and just having to master whatever level, even if it's like I said, you're scrubbing the floors, you're cleaning the toilets, doing those jobs and owning those jobs, I think gives you a lot more perspective when you then are managing people, because you understand that this isn't, you don't just, oh, that's just the just the janitor, just the maid. And it's like, no, that is a crucial part of our ecosystem because that person is just as important. Because if this place doesn't look and feel nice, then the experience overall, no matter how fancy this place, if it's dirty and shitty, people aren't going to enjoy it. And that is really important to me as the owner. So they're super important. Treat them accordingly. And I think if you don't grow up, or if you don't have the experience of at least a few like crappier jobs that you still said, I'm going to be the best at this job, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to really understand what that's like and effectively lead a team. So I think all of it mattered, let alone the fact that you dealing with people, like because you then are working with the people in the warehouse. You learn what the culture is like in a warehouse. You learn what it's like vacuuming cars in the car line. You learn how to interact and be a part of the tribe at that level, or that little kind of like sub tribe within whatever the company is. And that is probably the most valuable part, because again, if you're going to manage people and you're going to lead people in the future, you need to be able to be respected and be one of them. And that only comes by truly, I don't know, like they have to know that you care and that you get it, and that you're not just the boss who's going to bark orders at them or is just following a checklist, you know?
Well, in some distant memory, I remember you telling me about working for a hotel at some point and how really understanding the customer experience, like in a very intimate way. I don't know if you're a bellboy, was that what it was? But in some way, it kind of gave you a different perspective on how you were running your gym, which when I first went to Active Performance here in Orange County, it was like a totally premium experience that I'd never experienced. Just going to say that again, at a gym. Can you tell us a little bit about that, John? I want to hear
Sure.
details, woman.
Yeah, it was, that was probably the most like influential job in my career. So I worked for the Ritz-Carlton, and I started there as a valet. I was 21, and like that's the starting age to like, I had a few buddies who were working there running valet, saying they're making really good money on tips. And, they're like, hey, you should come and check it out. And so when I was 21, I applied for the job, got the job, and it was just everything that mattered to me. Like, they take client experience and like they've turned it into an art. It is not just happenstance. It's not just like someone's more personable than someone else. It is an art. It is a set of skills that you can teach someone and truly like create an experience. You can manicure the entire experience for someone, not just like visually, but emotionally. And they teach you how to do that. And I started in valet. I got promoted to bell. It's like the front of house. That's like the progression. Everyone valet, you become like a lead in valet, then you become a bellman, and then you can work your way up. And that experience, like the training we got from the hotel, and just being around other people who are just like true A players in like 5-star hospitality, completely changed my like that was for me probably the biggest confidence builder, because it also like tuned into who I was, and like that was what I was always feeling. I just never knew it was like a skill that you could really learn like that. And you just practice. Like every moment is an experience, is an opportunity for you to become sharper at engaging with someone, connecting with someone, building a relationship with someone, and just learning how to control an experience, which doesn't matter what your business is, what your application is. It is, in my opinion, one of the most important parts, because there's perceived value, and perceived value is everything. It doesn't matter how good your product is. If the perceived value is off, it doesn't matter. People aren't going to pay you for it, right? Or even if your product is not that great, if you can make the perceived value super high, right, then you can sell all day.
Right.
And managing perceived value is, in my opinion, the most important part of this skill set. And that's really what you learn. In a 5-star hotel, you have to be able to make people have that wow experience every moment. Even if shit hits the fan and something went wrong, how do you spin that immediately back into a positive frame, overcome the challenge, and get back to where you're again rebuilding that perceived value?
Wow, that's intense.
I know, right?
Like that you're paying extra money to go to the Ritz-Carlton. I guess I wouldn't have thought about it in that context of like everything down from the bellhop to the valet. Like it's all a congruent experience for the person, and that's what they're paying for.
Oh yeah.
Is this when you walk through? I mean, even just in the sense of, I have a status with Marriott, right? And it's like how much different it's the experiences having like gold status versus like not having status. And it's like, my room's always the way I want it because I set my settings up, and it's like they're just Mr. Pogue and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, whoa, it's, just on that level of care, you notice. I couldn't imagine if like show up, my car is valeted, everything is taken care of. It's like, that's unique. And you're absolutely right. Business is business across the board, whether it's a hotel or a gym or janitorial services, like how you operate. It's just the delivery is all the same.
Yep.
Right. And I think that trainers don't necessarily think about that kind of going into the industry. It's really easy to care about back squats and power cleans and programming and mesocycles and macro cycles. And like, at the end of the day, you're delivering an experience.
That's probably the biggest misconception in this profession, is that it's really all about like how technical you are, how many certifications you have. The most successful people I've seen got those later. They got just enough to get started, and they cared about people, and they focused on the experience and building relationships. If you're a trainer or a gym owner, whatever, understand the game that you're playing. You are in a relationship-based business, period. You don't have to be the best coach. You don't have to be the most sophisticated programmer. It comes down to, are you able to meet people where they're at, connect with them authentically on what their why is, map out a vision around what their specific goals are, and then exceed the expectations just that much every time. And you will build valuable, meaningful relationships with clients. They will pay you whatever you want to charge, because you are now making it about them, which means you are now decommoditized. Doesn't matter what the guy down the street charges, because it's the relationship. It's you. Focus on getting really good at building relationships, and you'll learn the other stuff as you go. That said, if you need a minimum requirement like your CSCS or your CrossFit Level 1 or whatever arena you're playing in, for sure, get the basics, know what you're doing, but there's a very low, I think, ceiling as to where you need to stop on that for a moment, and then just focus on, I'm going to get really good at just serving people. And all that other stuff will come from practice. First of all, you working with people. And if you're a constant student and you're like, hey, look, like I'm going to always be chipping away at this stuff, but like I don't need 10 certifications before I can charge what I'm worth. Bullshit. Get enough to get your hands dirty and then just dig in.
How did you decide to take this new skill set and like plant your flag into fitness?
I actually fell into it because I was working it's actually in similar spaces you were in back when you joined Active, where I was already working with small business owners and entrepreneurs and helping them build the business, specifically around like business development, sales, and because that was always kind of my thing. And
for like an agency or for yourself?
No, for myself.
Okay.
Just whatever opportunity. So I would, through my networking and just people I know, people like, I'm trying to do this and I can help you with that. And just kind of like would fall into jobs and opportunities that way, but nothing formal. I didn't have like a consulting firm or anything like that. Just still was just totally figuring it out. And a buddy of mine, Scott, actually was doing CrossFit, and I had struggled really badly with some tendonitis and carpal tunnel syndrome from playing guitar way too much and being unhealthy back in like my early 20s. And I had stopped working out. I was super active in my teens doing martial arts and lifting weights, and I was not a nerd about it, but like I was real into it. And I then, through this like recovery, I had a local friend here actually in town, Adam Watts, who runs Finish Strong MMA. He was like original CrossFit, like level 1 cert, like 2004 time frame, and he was like, hey, I think I can actually help you with your hand. You can get back into training. And I'm like, no, I've tried a bunch of stuff. It didn't work. And he's just like, I do something a little bit differently. I'll break it down to some progressions. It's all functional stuff. And basically started training with him. And he was able to get me past my hand injury to where I like got back to normal. And fell in love with CrossFit and the whole like community. And at that time, it was just like exploding. Like it was still like brand new, super underground, which is like also appeals to me. And so I just got really into it. And with Scott, then I joined a local CrossFit affiliate here in San Clemente. And I was consulting and doing things in like the tech hardware space mostly, and not because I cared much about it, but just because it was a really good opportunity. A buddy of mine had a really good company that needed some help. And I was training at this gym and I'm like, this is insane. Like this is so good and so special. And they ran such a shit business. Like when I contacted them, I had to, no joke, I went to the website, I filled out the contact us form, which was hard to find. Then I called the phone number. I left a voicemail. No one got back to me. And I did numerous attempts on all fronts. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So
I'm trying
like,
to give you my money, and I can't
no
even do
joke.
that.
And so I drove to the place, and there's a class going on. I walk in, and I'm like, take my money. Like I'm trying to sign up. I've been contacting you. Oh yeah, I think I saw something come in. Sorry about that. Sure. And then we scheduled our intro, and the rest was history there. But I just saw like this is such an important thing in our community that like it was hard for me, and I was like actively I already knew I wanted to sign up, let alone people who may not know that this is a really good fit for them. And he's like, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help us like become more visible? And so I started like helping him and kind of just consulting with him. And there was another member there at the time, Josh, who I don't know if you actually know Josh, but Josh was another member there, and he had a small like web agency, and they did websites and marketing for people. And he was like, hey, like him and I started just having good conversations and started talking shop, and basically we're like, we can like together help you out a lot. We can build a great site. And so we basically just pimped out that location. And then he started telling his friends, he's like, hey, actually, can you help this affiliate owner? Can you help this affiliate owner? And so we basically, Josh and I partnered up and started the original like agency, which was Spike Sales way back in the day. They do something totally different now, but we started focusing exclusively on CrossFit affiliates. And in very short order, it like blew up. We started working with Reebok. We helped like the whole like Reebok into CrossFit thing. We launched Barbells for Boobs, which is now like one of the most predominant like nonprofits in the CrossFit arena. Like we started that from scratch with Ziana and like provided all of the like business development, marketing, all that sort of thing. And it just evolved really quickly. And I fell in love with the community because at the end of the day, what matters to me most and what appealed to me so much about like small business ownership and entrepreneurship is that these are people who are so obsessed with their trade and like doing this better than everybody else. Like I'm not just every other mechanic. Like I'm the best damn Mercedes mechanic, or like I'm the best baker. We make the best bread in the area. And like that passion, and when that is matched with really good business structure, everybody wins, because now that person can thrive and like have a happy, fulfilling life, and they can make the impact, and everyone now knows about how awesome, like how good a bread there can be, right? And so for me, it like very quickly became like in the fitness space about like this is the most important like sector in our local communities, because now we're talking about people's like health and well-being. So you have these people who are like actively trying to help people live happier, healthier, more fulfilling lives. And we all know, like when it comes to health and nutrition, like what people are like socialized to understand is bullshit. Like there is such a skewed understanding of like what fitness is and what like eating right is, and all these just misconceptions about how hard it is or whatnot. And these people are trying to change that. But usually the people who are coaches or the people who are gym owners are people who were athletes who became coaches and were like, hey, I could do what I love. And next thing you know, they're doing some personal training, and next thing you know, they open a gym. But they have usually no formal background or experience in sales, marketing, let alone business at all. And so you have this like really important person who's trying to do really important work, but has no support. And most of what's being hawked to the personal trainer or to the gym owner is garbage. It's just people see low hanging fruit. They're like, they don't know what they're doing, and they're desperate. So I can sell them shit service and get away with it basically. And they know that there's such a high turnover rate that they'll probably quit being a personal trainer or a gym owner before it matters to me. Yeah. So why not? And so for me, it was like, I can help these people so much because I connect with the why. The whole philosophy around fitness, training, wellness, all that just personally means a lot to me. And, and it matched my skill set. So that's kind of how it came to be.
Beautiful.
That was awesome. I love it. I love the whole story of people who found fitness as a positive means to their life, right? And it was some sort of culmination of their experience or a path that led them down to it. And not that I disregard or don't care about the person that came through as they knew they wanted to be a strength coach going in, because I think that's got a great story too, because it's
100%.
got a different passion. But like these scenarios because a lot of people find fitness outside, right? I'm an accountant and I'm working out all the time and I love it, but I think I want to quit my job and become a trainer or open a gym, or I just had a big transformation story and I lost a bunch of weight, or I, built muscle, or finally, whatever it is. And my body, and I want to show how I can help people because it did so much for me.
Right. 100%.
And like, I think that's just your why is built in and to your story. And I think that narrative is so important. And to be able to transcend that, as you continuously deliver your own products and helping people kind of going forward. So,
yeah. Do you think you can tell us a little bit about the network and the platform? So these are your two babies that have been birthed throughout like years of working at a hotel and on.
So with Gym Right, we really have like one main offering, which is the platform. And that's like a fully turnkey website and automation. Like we create all the content, we do the full campaign architecture for the full life cycle of a member. And it's all done like for you. So it's not like we just say, hey, you need to go buy Infusionsoft and you need to get a website built. And we're not just telling them what to do. We combine the consulting aspect with, okay, let's figure out who you are, what's important to you, where you're at, where you want to go. Let's figure out what the numbers need to look like from like a business standpoint and how that applies to your idea of success. And like we really make this about them and their version of this business, because there is no such thing as a one size fits all, like period. And that's I think a really important takeaway too for people listening or getting into this, because it oftentimes from the people who've been in it for a while or long enough will make it look like or make it sound like there's like one way to do this and one way to do that. And the truth is that's not true at all. Is that it needs to be built around you and your strengths and weaknesses, just like any business, right? It's about identifying what are your strengths and weaknesses, what are your goals, what do you want this to look like for yourself, for your family, for your team, for your clients. Figure out where all those lenses intersect, and then say, okay, now that I know like what the output looks like, what do the numbers need to look like to make that happen? And then you reverse engineer, okay, now this is what my service suite and offerings and pricing model and margins, and you can work your way into it that way. So we have a process where when we onboard people, we go through that exercise and help them frame up and get clarity on, where they are, where they want to go, what the numbers look like. And then we build the system around that, because now the website and all the content on the website and your sales funnel and your sales method and your onboarding method and your membership structure and your policies and your referral program, all of that can now be cohesive around all of those qualifiers.
Sounds like there's so much more into this than just like going and training someone. What you just like I don't think it's ever just been like there was that all in one, it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to think about on this journey, right? And so whether you're opening up a gym or you're just trying to get into this as a trainer, right, there's a whole avenue that you need to think about beyond like, okay, we're going to go squat, deadlift, bench press, and to think about finding success, because it's easy to be a splash in the pan, right? You can be shredded and be, have a few clients, but the longevity of this game is not built on just output, right? I stopped being a trainer because I wasn't doing this, right? I was really good about getting clients, but I couldn't keep training 12, 15 hours a day. And it was like, okay, well, this is great when I'm 26, but what do I do when I'm 40? Right?
I think that's a super important point, because that's actually why we exist.
Yeah.
Is because the burnout rate is 3 to 5 years for most people in this industry. And the reason for that is that they go at it by applying what maybe has worked for them in athletics, which is just like, I can just go harder, I can go more. It's volume, right? Which if you're a long-term athlete, you also learn that's not the game. Longevity is the key, right? So it's about like eternal progression and pacing yourself and being smart about recovery and maintenance and all that, rather than just, well, I do 3 sessions a day. That may work when you're 23 years old, but when you're 30 and you've been working 12-hour days, you start to break down, you have injuries, and there goes your athletic career. Same thing applies to you in business. If you're not smart about how you pace yourself and where you put the effort, and you're not immediately focusing on longevity, like you may not have the like big crazy result that someone like showed on their Facebook, before and after this marketing service or whatever, but that's not real. That's like the person who's like, I lost 50 pounds in 30 days. And if you know what you're talking about, you're like, and where is she now? Right? I bet you worse than before, right? Because that wasn't done sustainably. That wasn't done like to permanently make that person healthier. So in business, you have to approach this with the long game in mind and maintenance. And that's why we're so so adamant about like all these factors, and it not just being, hey, we just make good looking websites, or hey, we make really cool like sales funnels and marketing funnels, because if you're a la carting it and you're just cobbling this stuff together, and it's not really about like what's sustainable and what's going to serve you and your clients and everyone in the long term, you're going to blow yourself out. And then because you're working harder and harder, and then just pushing harder may work in the short term, but that 3 to 5 year line, that's real life.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you realize you're like, I've been working 12-hour days for 4 years. I barely take a paycheck. I'm still coaching like, 10 classes a day. I'm doing all the paperwork myself. This is the opposite of what I thought I signed up for. I'm in this because I wanted to train people and change people's lives, and my life sucks. I can't train anymore. I'm always getting hurt when I train because you're out of balance. So you have to take that into consideration, and I guess put a little bit more value on those aspects and earlier on in the game.
So speaking of longevity, I'm sure you've talked to some gym owners that probably shouldn't be gym owners.
Yeah.
Do you see any
Lots.
kind of like common quality between guys that really like thrive in this space besides maybe having the systems? Like what type of person would thrive by owning a gym?
I think that it's really easy to tell right out of the gate whether someone's going to succeed or not, because it's a matter of, do they care about people? And like learning numbers, learning sales systems, marketing, technology, all that, those are just tools. The important thing is you're in the people business. You're in the relationship business. Personal trainer or gym owner, doesn't matter. That's the business you're in. You don't sell fitness. That is just the medium. You are in the relationship business. So if you don't care, if you don't legitimately give a shit about people, then you are not going to succeed long term, because it's about the numbers, or it's about, selling memberships, or about like how smart your training program is. That's not what this is about.
Right.
You're playing the wrong game. So therefore, eventually you'll lose.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of a common theme with everyone we've spoken to about like what they see being a common quality of like anybody who's in the fitness industry. It's like you really do have to be selfless. You don't have to necessarily be a martyr about it, but you really
gotta be
do.
smart.
Yeah, absolutely. And in our last episode with Dr. Quinn that we just recorded, he was talking about working on a lot of self-care, just in how he's changed the way that he sleeps, because he cares so much about people that he's had that burnout feeling of like just going hard, not being able to sleep, and then realizing he's not really doing anything well. So there's a balance, right? Like you are here for people, but you're also here to take care of yourself and your family, which it brings us kind of like full circle into making sure that you're architecting your business around like what really resonates for you and your family, and like how you want to spend your life, right?
100%. If you're not taking care of yourself to the point to where, again, it's sustainable, then you're inevitably going to hit that. And for the record, I don't know a single successful entrepreneur or business owner who hasn't hit that, if not once, more than once, because you don't get it until you experience it. People tell you all the tricks before you start a business. If you talk to a successful entrepreneur, they'll tell you all the secrets right out of the gate, but we don't get it until we feel it.
Yeah.
And the burnout thing of like, I can handle it. I can do more. I'm freaking Iron Man. And then you actually start to experience this burnout, and you realize like, I can't do my job as a coach if I'm like physically hurt, or I'm like exhausted and tired. Like I'm just not paying attention. I'm tuned out 3 hours into my day where I should be able to do this for 6 hours or 8 hours a day. So yeah, you have to integrate in that self-care and those breaks, and be realistic with yourself. Like, could I do this, 3 years from now? Would this still be okay? And more often than not, the answer is no. Now, that said, when you're getting off the ground, you more than likely are going to have to double down and like push harder. And that's kind of just the nature of like startup mode.
And you want to you're in that mode, and you want to be in that mode.
You're jump starting something, right? You're bringing something to life. So for sure, when you first get started, you probably have to go harder than everybody else. You work more hours than everybody else. You're doing it all yourself. The trick to me, in my opinion, is to acknowledge that for what it is, and know that I'm going to try and get out of that mode as quickly as possible. So you may have to go super hard in the beginning, but I know going into a project, I'm going to allow myself 1 year or 6 months or whatever is appropriate. And I think you get better at this as you do more and more projects, but you have to give yourself a timeline and say, I'm going to get to this goal within this time frame. And it doesn't mean that you have to make a certain income, as much as for me, the lesson has been get out of my own way. So I'll hire people into the roles that I hate most the fastest. So if I know, for example, doing accounting work and spreadsheets and back of house stuff, that is not my forte. I like people. I could do the front of house stuff all day long, right? But the second you're like, hey, you're gonna have to sit and spend 10 hours cleaning up the books, I want to throw up. So I may do it when I first get it off the ground, but the very first thing I have is like, how can I get someone else to do this like as fast as possible so I can get back to the thing that like charges my batteries again, which is people, right? And so you have to kind of be honest with yourself too and be like, I don't have to do everything myself forever so that you can get out of your way. And that's usually where the sustainability comes from. It's like, if you can really narrow it down to the one or two things that you really love doing, guess what? You don't get tired of doing that as much, right? Because you're not now also cleaning the bathrooms and doing the books and having to maintain equipment and whatever maybe the things are. Those are things I hated doing, you know? So it makes it more sustainable. And now you can start to develop a little bit more on maybe being a better coach and then maybe working less hours and all that. So.
What's up, everybody? Jessica here. So first off, congrats to listener Larry, who won last month's Fitness Industry Night giveaway sponsored by Onnit. He won a pair of Captain America bumper plates. So have fun with those, Larry. Now we're in March. Oh my God, this year is flying by, people. Our friends at Yes Onnit again, they're giving one of you an Ironman kettlebell weighing in at 40 pounds. All you have to do to win is go to our website, fitnessbreakroom.com, and just leave your name and email on the entry form. And basically, we just let you know if you won or not at the end of the month. It's pretty simple. For extra entries to win, you can email me a screenshot of a review you left us on iTunes. Actually, last month's winner, Larry, did that. You can share the contest on Facebook, Twitter, or email it to a friend. We're making it as easy as possible to share the love and also win free stuff. Also on our website, you can find a video version of all of our VIP interviews like the one you're listening to right now and a bunch of other resources we've come across that's made a big impact on our careers and of our friends' careers as well. That's it for me. Super short commercial. Enjoy the rest of the show, everybody, and thanks so much in advance for your reviews and your support.
I mean, you said it earlier just about, what some of the jobs that you had growing up really taught you, and that's to be within that, vacuuming the cars out. And it's like you're hiring someone not because, you're above it, but because that you're like, oh my gosh, it brings me down so much, and someone else is going to be so much better at it because they enjoy it, and it's actually going to maximize your time, right? Rather than like, oh man, they're just going to do the books or they're just going to clean the bathroom. So I think that's important to remember that, like, for you to go through that process and you starting out doing the books, it's like, yeah, you may not necessarily do it forever, but it makes you appreciate when someone else does it. Yeah. That you're just able to pass that off. So as you guys are developing, your own methods in this business, like, don't feel like you're above any particular job, but at the same time, like, value what someone else brings to the table. Like, in our relationship, Jessica does everything, right? And she's
It happens. I don't know how I always get myself in this situation.
I said it last episode. Everybody needs a Jessica. I just sit here and try to be mediocre in looks and sometimes talk and bring up some relevant things.
He carries the stuff.
Deal with the century.
I carry the stuff, and that's it. And she does really everything. She makes this actually work. So everybody needs that, and I think that's really important to acknowledge. You're going through this, and we just talked about the startup life, and we're in startup life right now. Mm-hmm. How are you taking care of yourself through this new Gym Right launch? And
well, we're in a phase of like super intense like workload because it was a transition from one brand to another with a whole existing client base while introducing a whole new brand. Like we already have, many hundreds of clients that we service like today. So we had to like transition not just from like an infrastructure standpoint, but like the brand and the buy-in on that brand to launching the new brand publicly, and how do we do that? And there was a lot that went into that. So for me, it's my mornings. Like I have to really honor. So I have a wife, I have a son, a baby on the way. And so for me, like my family time is critical and it has to be completely focused. So that's also a big part of me having a dedicated workspace and no longer working from home, which I did successfully for a really long time. But I have a morning routine. So I wake up and I go to the gym or I go to yoga. I alternate every day. And I go do that, and I have that completely uninterrupted. So I have my whole like morning routine. I come back, I sit and I read for a little bit. I spend some time, I have breakfast with my son, my wife, and then I come to the office, and then I am off. I don't do anything other than just hammer, like work for like 8-10 hours. And then when I'm done, I'm done. Phone is off. There's no email. There's no anything. Because when I come home, I recharge with my family time. And even though when I'm doing if I have a lot, like right now, my days are longer, so I might not get home until like 5 o'clock. But like when I'm in like my regular routine is more like maybe let's say like 8 to 2 or 3 every day, and I just make sure that I am productive as hell in that window. No interruptions, no breaks. I like time block everything out so I can do in that 6 hour window what usually most people will do in 3 4 days because I'm not on social media. I'm not distracted. I'm not doing anything other than like the focused project at hand. But now, because we have a lot going on, it may be longer. So those ends, the morning and the evening, are that much more precious and like not to be touched, because that is what allows me to focus and be present and not distracted. Because my home life is good,
Yeah.
my body feels good, and obviously maintaining a good diet. It's so tempting when you're just like hammering work to just like I'm just going to run out and grab something shitty, but I have a healthy breakfast. I pack a salad every day for lunch. I come home, I make a healthy dinner with my family. So, I mean, just minding the obvious stuff, move every day, eat well every day, have time to like recharge and like feel like you have a moment to take a breath for yourself and maybe learn something new. Or like for me, it'll be if I'm not reading in the morning, I may just like hang out in my car and like listen to music, and as music was a big part of my life. So just to kind of just me time stuff, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be huge, but it's that you're touching on all the subjects a little every day. There's a book that came out several years ago called I think it was 5 minute 5 minute morning or something like that, about morning routine. And the whole subject or the whole concept is that we have these different categories that even if you just hit them for like a minute each every day, you still feel like you got a little something, right? So if you can like sit and like just close your eyes and breathe, sure, would it be awesome to do like a 30-minute Wim Hof session every day? Yeah. Can I do that every day? Nope. Some days it's like 3 minutes. I'll do like just close my eyes, just focus, do some breathing, but I check the box. Move. Do I have time to go do like a 90-minute, yoga session and like just let my hair down? Not always. So I may only go in for like 20 minutes. Go in, just move a little bit and then move on. But you hit all the different categories. And I think that's really the thing here is like I have my family time. I have my personal, like I take in information time. I have my movement time. I'm eating well and I have time to like do that in peace. And that's going to allow you to actually be far more productive in less time than like being all over the place throughout the day and not taking care of yourself, because it may work for a few days, but after a couple of weeks of doing that, your overall quality starts to go down, which means your overall volume has to go up to cover it. Next thing you know, you're just running yourself on the floor.
I think you made such a key point that you just brought up the family time at the end of the night and then you time in the morning. It wasn't that it like you were going to deplete it, or like right now we're in startup mode, so like hours are longer and I'm like, okay, I'm not getting as much. It was like, no, it makes it even that much more important to get it in when you are pushing. And I'm that type, right? I'm the type that like, you want to play the game of who can work the most hours in a row or who can take the most trips in a row. Like I'll play the game all day.
Dude, he got me out of bed at 5:30 this morning. We were in LA traffic. I don't play that game. Sam doesn't need to sleep. He does not need to sleep.
no,
It's
it's
so
just
weird.
Like, and people like, but people look at me and they're like, how are you on the road 2-3 times a month? You teach a seminar and like, I've had 6 weekends off this year, right? Where I didn't have and granted, like if you came to town for the weekend, like that would be technically work for me, right? We're hanging out, like we're gonna go dinner and play, but like, it's still like I could have done something else or whatnot. But
Right.
like for me, like that recharges me. Like I love to have the interaction, with you, or like I just had the FRC crew in, so we were at dinner and doing a seminar. Like I enjoy that. So it's like, it's not work for me, even though it is work.
It's your priority now,
Yeah.
You're single, you're in a point in your career where you're like, I can hustle right now and it's just me. Whereas you have a whole nother like world with a beautiful family, right? That
Yeah.
you really need to pay attention to and want to pay attention to.
100%.
What about prioritization? When you have a trillion goddamn things to do and you're like, okay, I have 4 hours I'm going to crush. Like, what does that look like? Because sometimes I'll have a million tabs open and I have my passion planner open and I'm like setting my passion planner on fire because everything needs to be done now.
Right.
What do you have any kind of like organizational thing that you
I do.
might be able to share?
So
Sweet.
for me, I fell in love with the idea of time blocking. So what I do is I consider like different buckets. So I have like my content day, and then I'll have like sales or like whatever like the buckets are, marketing, content, accounting, whatever they are. break your week up into those days. And then in whatever that day is, so let's say on Mondays I'm doing content, then I'm going to set aside the first part of my day when I'm feeling most creative, I'm the most fresh. I haven't been on conference calls yet. I'm not like in the mix, right? You're not like reactive yet. Take the first part of your day and then dedicate a window of like anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on, what your availability is, but to like dedicate uninterrupted, like phone is off, email is off. Like I don't even get the notifications. I literally turn the stuff off and just like block that out so that I can get that done really well and get it completely done. And to the point to where, again, 1 4-hour, like uninterrupted window, like on one subject or one thing is, again, more than what most people will do, half-assing it or being distracted throughout the week. So I can say, okay, I'm going to do, let's say 4 hours on Monday on content. Tuesday, I'm doing like my team development stuff. So I'm just managing. I'm like checking in with everyone. I'm like, how are you doing? What do you need? What can I get you? And like, that's dedicated. And I time block out throughout the week. So then what you do is, and once you have your time blocks in place and you start to like see, okay, is 3 hours enough? 3 hours. Oh yeah. 3 hours on Mondays for content, more than enough. What else can I add into that? Or maybe I can reduce it and take some time to myself. Or it's like, man, 4 hours on team development, not even close. I need like 6 hours. So then I'll adjust the time block for the following weeks. And so doing that first, doing the most important thing first and having that uninterrupted window has for me proven to be like the key to my like overall productivity, because then I can always plan the things out. And the second half of my day is for being reactive. So that's where I know I've already checked some really important boxes for the day. Like the priorities are done. Like I've done my tier 1 work. And then everything after that is like, okay, we got to do a call. We got to like put out a fire. We got to deal with something. The reactive stuff can usually wait more than it feels like it can wait.
Oh,
right?
that's a nice lesson. Yeah.
A lot of people think that like just because the email hits your inbox and you're like, oh my God, like I've got to deal with this client. If you need a few hours to get back to it, like, I mean, obviously you're going to be the judge of this depending on what it is, but like more often than not, it can wait just long enough for you to like finish your time block and like get the important stuff done and then be like, cool, I'm going to get to that this afternoon. Right. So after every one of those morning blocks, I have like an email window where I'm like, I check in and see what's going on. And if I need to like get back to anything that happened that morning, so what? Someone sent me an email at 9 o'clock and I got back to them at noon. It's like, that's not that unrealistic. Like I was doing something, but I still got back to them. Now, some people are like, oh, I check my email once a week. Like, that sounds great. I think that has to do more with the kind of business you're in. If you're in a relationship-centric business, like we are in fitness more often than not, that usually doesn't fly. So, like, although people say that and it sounds awesome on paper to like do all your email once in a week, 4-hour work week style, that can work maybe if you're in the dry cleaning business or whatever, where it's maybe not as urgent, where it's not about someone's problem or issue or pain or something like that. So, but anyway, so I block it out and then the afternoon's more reactive.
Nice.
I waste a lot of bandwidth, I know, internally for me on being super reactive. And I had mentioned in our last episode with Quinn, I was like, man, when I was writing my ebook, it was like 5 a.m., get up, and I just don't have my email on. I sit and drink coffee, and I just write. And it was like, man, just uninterrupted time. And at first I thought it would be like, man, it's 5 a.m. I'm a morning person, but since traveling so much, I definitely have a hard time adjusting to time zones. So some days I'm like, oh, 5 a.m. is awful. And then I'm like, I'm going to sleep till 8. And it's like, but that uninterrupted time, I think, is so key. Whether it's an hour, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's, whatever it is. And then, it can wait, right? I mean, if someone was on fire, they're not going to email you because that's probably not the best way to get a hold of someone if you're on fire. Right. So not to put email as like priority number one, but because it's like sometimes you think about like, what did I get done today? Like I answered a shitload of emails, but did anything stem from that?
Oh, that's the worst feeling, huh? You're like, I've been working all day and I didn't get anything done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to fall victim to that all the time. And like, as of like most recently, like what I've been doing is like, I'll check in throughout the day, but if it's an email that can wait until the end of the week, my Friday, so after we finish recording this, is like, I do my content on Fridays and like the morning half, which I do my own show. And then, we're doing this here, but the afternoon is basically for me to catch up on any loose ends for the week. So if it's like something's important and like should be responded to that day, then I'll respond to it that day. If it's something where I'm like, I can get to that on Friday, I save all the like the just kind of more like busy work email. I save for the end of the week because I can do that all in like a 2-3 hour block and just like, sure, I'll read your PDF and give you feedback. And that's the stuff that can wait. But if you do that and break your day up with that stuff, you're never going to get anything done.
Yeah.
Just because you want to be Mr. Johnny on the spot and like get back to someone, like I know that feels really good and people really like that. But it's one of those like 80-20 things. It's like, it may feel really good and people really like it, but it's not that important. You'd be better off just being like, hey, I'll take a look at this a little bit later this week and send you some feedback. Is that cool? Like, send that, and they'll be like, yeah, sure. Or they may say, no, I actually need this by tomorrow. And then you can be like, okay, cool. I'll address it tomorrow then, or today.
Yeah.
It seems like a good way to close off the week too, because when I have a few like scraggly emails, I'm thinking about them all weekend,
Oh, they
so
haunt
it's
you.
nice. Yeah.
They haunt you.
For
I know
sure.
the feeling. So like I get it down to zero every week.
Very cool. We can bring it back to the gym owner side of things. I'm just imagining that people who are wondering, if it's the right time for them to open up a gym, the questions they might be asking are like, do I need to have a certain amount of members before I open a gym? Do I need to own the building? What would you have done differently if you could have gone back to active and like done it, quote, the right way? Like what
The
do
gym
you
right
think?
way.
The gym right way. Do you have any like milestone where people find themselves in a spot and they're like, okay, now I think you're ready to like open a gym?
Yes. So for one, you don't need to own the building. That even applies to few people once they're established that they end up owning the building. Because that's a whole nother business. Real estate is a whole nother thing. But I always look at it this way: like if you're chomping at the bit, ready to go, take advantage of that like internal motivation and just start. Because it's never going to be the right time to start a business. Just like it's never the perfect time to get married or the perfect time to have kids or the perfect time for anything. It doesn't exist. There is no perfect time. It's when you feel excited about it and you're willing and able to pull the trigger. Anyone who says, "Oh, but it's not the right time. I want to make sure I have enough members first." I bet you if you put yourself in a position where you have to do it, guess what? You'll do it. You'll get the members because this isn't rocket science. It's a matter of you putting in the effort into the right areas, and that's it. Like you don't need to have a big loan. You don't need to have a big fancy facility. People are like, oh, I don't want to open this until I can start with like a 4,000 square foot space with $50,000 rogue rig setup and this and that. It's just like, dude, like you can start tiny and like sublet a corner or do workouts out of a park. Like you don't need any of that. Just start with where you're at. If you're capitalized and you can go in, or that, hey, I have some people I could probably ask and get some money and like start something and maybe start a little bit further along. Great. That's your unique setup. Some people don't have that and they end up being wildly successful because they just took advantage of what they had, which was a good attitude, some work ethic, and they made the time for it and they started in a park.
Yeah.
So there isn't any, I think it all comes down to your internal like ability to commit to like doing it, then any numbers, there's no metrics, all that's BS. It's just, again, this is a matter of like, we're talking about business ownership, entrepreneurship. It is about how hard you're willing to go. Like, how hard are you willing to try? If you're like doing it part-time, I can tell you right now, you're going to lose against the person who goes full-time. Because if you both really care and someone's going 12 hours a day and you're going 2 hours in the morning before work, 2 hours at night or whatever, who do you think is going to win? Not just on sheer like output, but like, who do you think is going to get better faster? That person who's doing it all day, every day, and they may not know, they may have a disadvantage relative to you in day one, but 90 days in, 180 days in of them going full steam ahead with a good attitude and like working their ass off, they're going to be better than you. They're going to be further along than you. They're going to be more established than you, period. And that's really what it's all about. Is just like, I think speed of implementation is super valuable. It's really important to me. Like you drag stuff out, I'll freak out. But it is when it comes to starting it, like if you're excited and you're like, I really want to do this, figure out like, what do I need to do to make it happen? Like minimum, like the whole like minimal viable product concept. Like what is my minimum? Like I could rent a room and like not have a fancy car for a minute and not have all these luxuries for a minute and just be willing to like live on fumes to like get this thing started or to like make it happen and get this loan and figure it out. But there is no like one key thing.
Yeah. What about, okay, starting from scratch is one thing. What about purchasing gyms? I know you're dealing with some transfers of gyms.
Yeah.
What would be the optimal situation for both of those instances?
Well, if you're looking to acquire a gym, for one, you have to know your strengths going into it. Like, what is it that you do well. So are you doing this and you already know how to run a gym, and you know that like my thing is that I can get the operations part like dialed in better than anyone because I already know that part, and I can see this gym is struggling because their operations suck. That would be a smart buy, assuming obviously that the basic math on what's going on is there. So for one, have a professional valuation done. You would be surprised, like the majority of gyms that are sold or bought are done on what the gym owner originally just feels it's worth, which by the way is 100 times more than what it's actually worth.
Yeah.
Because if there's no contracts in place and it's all built around that person and them being the only coach or the head coach, and it's all centered around that, when they leave, what do you think is going to happen to that member base? It's gone. You just bought a time bomb, and now you're on the hook for a lease on whatever else is in there. So for one, making sure that you're buying a business and not you're not taking over someone's self-employment. Right?
Whoa.
There's a difference between the two. Self-employment means that person was, I'm the coach here. This is my world. I built this whole thing around Markus, and these people are here because of me. And the second I leave, this whole place is going to go down because the magic's gone. I built it around me rather than building a business around systems. You can be a key part of that system. You can be the freaking spirit animal of that system. But guess what? It has to run just as well without you, and you being able to take a month off and it continuing to do what it does in order for it to really be considered a business. So understand what you're buying, have a proper valuation done on it, and then again, understand like what are you bringing to the table. So really take an honest look at like what are the strengths and weaknesses of this ecosystem that I'm taking a look at, and say, where is it strong? Where is it weak? How do my strengths and weaknesses, my real ones, not the ones that like you use to fluff up your ego, but like brass tacks, like what am I actually really good at? And how do those line up? And if they don't line up, or you're like, man, this place is really sucking for growth, and because they have no good sales systems or marketing systems in place, and I'm not a great salesperson or marketer, do not buy that gym because you are only replacing the weakness. Right? Rather than being like, dude, sales is like my jam, and like you guys suck at sales. Like I would like that for me would be the immediate like, oh, I can turn this around because I know I can sell my way out of it, because that's my super skill.
Yeah.
And so if it weren't, then don't choose that.
Definitely. Sometimes you, with your clients, talk about the difference between a boutique style gym, I believe that's what it's called, and well, what's the other one? Like a
More volume.
Yeah.
Right. So volume focused or like boutique focused, right? So
Yes.
smaller number, higher value versus like lots of people, lower value. And yeah, I think it's important to choose or identify which one you're going for, because the challenge I think that a lot of people run into is that, especially in like our specific niche in like the kind of CrossFit gym world, these are people who are usually really passionate about coaching and the people and the community factor. And so they're thinking like, well, I want to be the best gym. We have the best programming, the best coaching. Like I want to know everyone's name and their kids' names and where they work. And like, that's awesome. But understand, just think about like Dunbar's law, 150 people, like you can't have more than 150 like meaningful relationships at any given time for most. Now, if you're like a super connector, you may be able to have 250. Right? But for most people, just know kind of a basic law is like 150. So if you want to be that person who has that really like high quality, high end like experience and it's really personable, but you do the math and your business model is built around having to have 300 members, you're screwed, because now you're going to build a business that you don't like and that doesn't represent what you want. Or you're going to start using marketing and sales tactics for that model and trying to plug them into yours. And now you have a misalignment. Now you're using like low barrier, like deals to like get people into your like really high end and like service, so that the barrier is way too steep. They're going to be out of alignment. So I think it's really important to understand which version of this game are you choosing to play, and then based on that, qualify your tactics and your systems and tools based off of that.
Absolutely.
It's the same for you guys if you're not a gym owner and you're a personal trainer, right? If you're someone that doesn't have high social bandwidth, right, and you can't train 10 hours a day and you can only really train 4 hours a day, then your price should probably reflect that, right? If you're like, well, I enjoy having a Jaguar and having this really pimp condo and all this like shopping at Whole Foods and whatever it is,
Sounds
and
dope.
you can only and you can only like train for, like your social bandwidth is 4 sessions a day, then you should probably have your prices reflect that, right? You can't do the bargain like, well, we're only $20 for our first 3 sessions, and then we're going to move up to $80 an hour. Like, you're going to go broke real quick, right? And so, at the same time, if you, I mean, and I wouldn't suggest anybody play the like who can play the highest social bandwidth game, because there is a burnout rate. But even understanding, like, maybe you can handle 10 clients a day, which is fine. It doesn't bother you. It didn't bother me. But at the same time, it's like your price should also still at least value the time that you're giving, right? Or if you're doing boot camps versus one-on-one, or if you're doing meal plans and food prep, and you do all these services, like, make sure that you're valuing yourself and your time, because the best ability is availability. And if you're not there, you can't provide to your family, your clients, your business, and then in turn, everything else starts dumping down. So you got to make sure that you're taken care of equally.
100%. And I think that's the problem that so many gym owners run into, is that they underpriced or undervalued what they did, because they didn't really do the math on like, what would it actually cost for me to pay a coach that I need to be this good and care this much, and like be able to provide ongoing education so I keep them interested and they stay as a part of this thing. And like, they don't really think about that. And it applies the same to you. Like, to say, okay, well, how do I price accordingly? So what happens is that because they care, and because they're willing to go above and beyond, and because they're a good coach, they're going to get in far enough into the business to where they have now too many obligations at too low a value, right? So this is like the average client value dilemma that most group training models struggle with, is that all of a sudden, because you cared and you tried and you worked your ass off, you've got 100 members at too cheap of a price, and you're like, geez, like this is just enough for me to like pay the bills and like stay alive, but I'll never be able to thrive. I can't invest in marketing. I can't like hire someone good to like take this off my plate, or whether it's coaching or it's administrative. And if I did, now I can't pay myself. So I'm basically got my ass on a hook for a lease and like all these people and all these responsibilities, and I make no money doing it. This sucks, right? Same thing with the personal trainer who undervalues, and all of a sudden they've got 10 clients a day. They're like, awesome, I look super busy. I feel I'm doing a lot, but I'm not making proportionately to like what this should be worth, whether that's 4 hours or 10 hours a day. Right. So the whole like valuation on my own time and what like my sustainable pace is. So I wouldn't like doing more than like 4 classes a day. I used to do way more than that because I can, but what I like doing and what I can do like forever is like 4 clients a day. So for me, I would make sure that at 4 clients a day, I am achieving all of my goals. Now that may require me to step up my own game to be like, man, if I want to charge $125 an hour to like make that worth my while, or to like to justify this cost and make people still feel like they're getting more than they're paying for, because maybe that's what the math works out and whatever it is, then I'm going to have to add more value. I'm going to have to freaking smash every session. Everyone gets like personal check-ins from me every day, and nutrition follow-ups, and like, okay, what does that entail? And figure out, is that doable? Is that worth it? Do I want to do that? Yes. Great. Now you've got a formula.
Yeah. As we look at this, you brought up some financial points, and let's say you're a struggling gym owner, and you're like, you're hooked on the lease, you're barely making ends meet, you can't even keep another coach on full time, so you're training every single session, you're doing it all, and like, God, I haven't paid myself in years, let's say, right? And then it's okay. Well, sure, I totally understand why Gym Right would be really helpful for me, and I really want it. I'm having a hard time understanding, how am I going to find $1,000 a month, or how am I going to find this money? Because I'm not. It's not that I don't value what you're doing. It's I don't know how to make that work for me, so that way I can get better.
Sure.
How do you talk about that to a gym owner or a coach?
Well, I mean, yeah. For one, we're certainly not on the low end. We're a premium service, so we're going to charge accordingly. And that said, if someone sees the value and they're like, man, that really resonates with me, like I know I need that solution. At the end of the day, it's about your resourcefulness, not your resources. Like anyone's like, yeah, but I don't have the money, or I can't do this yet. Bullshit.
Yeah.
That's that you sure. Now that you said that with that attitude, no, you can't. Right. But the reality is that it's just like when someone's like, I really need a personal trainer to like help me finally lose this weight and get off this thing. And they're like, but they still spend, $10 a day at Starbucks and, all this money on going out for drinks every month. And it's like, you realize that you're choosing to spend that money elsewhere. That's not my problem. Like if you can't realize that that's less important than this, then that's a you problem, not a me problem. But, at the end of the day, if, someone is stuck and they're like, man, what do I do to like make this happen? I need to generate revenue. There's a lot of little tactics and things you can do if you're really willing to do the work. Like if someone comes and says like, I'm ready, like I'm committed, I will do the work, doesn't matter, like I'm in. Then, there's things like people who are in like the group training environment. You could go, approach a couple of your like ironclad members and just say like, hey, I know you currently are paying us $175 a month. You've been with us a long time. I'm looking to invest in the business and in myself. And I'm not trying to like take on investors. I will, how about this? I'll make you a deal. I know you're not going anywhere. I will sell you, instead of at $175 a month, you do a prepaid with me for the year, and I'll knock 25%. I'll make them a really good deal because they're a good client. But you do that with 3 or 4 people, and all of a sudden you've got like 10 grand sitting around to like invest in your facility or in your software or your whatever you're trying to accomplish. And just know, because now you've put your own self on the hook. I now took my own future money to invest now, so I better do this, right? So that's kind of helps with that whole like personal buy-in rather than borrowing it or charging it on a credit card, because when it's not yours, you're not going to care as much.
Yeah.
You're way more likely to be like, oh, it got hard, or there was some scheduling stuff, and you start making excuses. There's probably a reason you're in the shitty position that you're in.
Yeah.
Because you've left it up to yourself to like, you set yourself up for failure. But if you can set yourself up for success with little tricks like, man, this is like, I took it from myself, like I borrowed against myself to do this, then you're probably going to be more likely. And that's just an example to like generate revenue like that. I had done something similar like way back when myself, when I was trying to like jumpstart a business, where I went to clients and I'm like, hey, you're paying me this, and I know that we're doing a good job and all that sort of thing, and I will make you a very special deal in exchange for you prepaying in advance, because I knew they could afford it. I knew that they were satisfied and that they were bought in. I said, I don't think you're going anywhere, and I'll make you this special offer. And I over just a few hours was able to generate lots of money.
Cool. On the topic of like creating as much value as you can with as little money as you can, I'm sure there are people listening who would love to get a job with a smaller gym. We just interviewed the director of education from Equinox, and they have an amazing program that you can enroll in as a trainer. But of course, it's still a corporate gym, and that's not for everyone. So my question for you is, if you're going to hire your first couple of trainers, what are you looking for in them?
So if we're talking about in a gym environment and I'm trying to like bring trainers in,
Yes.
my experience has been that personality trumps everything. Like people usually will think like, oh, I got to get like the most experienced coach. I've got to find like the guy who's got all the certs, or the girl who's been, doing this forever. It's a culture thing. Like I would look for someone who's a cultural fit and a personality fit first, even if they don't know what they're doing, and I'll teach them how to teach a squat before I look for someone who's like an ace at teaching the squat and doesn't match our vibe. That's
like
where I would start.
Yeah. It's very similar to Equinox, I guess. But the great thing is that with smaller gyms, culture fits can vary so different than, a corporate setting where
100%.
everything needs to be very muted and kind of like, don't be too this, right?
Right.
You can join a gym that has like a really intense personality, and you can finally find your space, find your people.
Exactly right. That's the beauty of this space, is that, you can literally find any version of this out there. If you're into like super hardcore heavy metal powerlifting, we slap each other in the back, like kind of environment, like that's what gets you pumped up. That exists.
Yeah.
There's an abundance of that, right? Or if you like the super clean, super tight, like minimalist, like it's is all about like the technicalities and all that exists too. Like you can go in any way, find any version of it. And I encourage you, like if you're really trying to, like if you're just getting started and you want to progress quickly, put yourself in an environment that your natural self, like your real self, is able to just like to develop quickly. Try not to maybe put yourself in an environment where you're putting a square peg in a round hole and like, man, this is like the really clean, like almost like a sterile type of like gym environment, physical therapy style facility. And I'm like that heavy metal power lifter guy. Like, not that you won't learn anything, but like if you want to really like progress quickly, put yourself in your own environment and be like, okay, this person is doing what I wish I were doing now, and they're like 10 years ahead of me. They own a facility, they've got X amount of members, and they look at their like lifestyle, and like I would find people who are doing what I want and have what I want and model that before it's just about any opportunity. And sometimes that may mean you've got a big commute, or you're doing it for free, or you're whatever.
Mm.
Like for me personally, it was always about I just wanted to get my foot in the door. Like I did countless jobs and took countless gigs just to be around people who had or did what I wanted to be able to do, because I knew that if I just put myself around it and I was there and I just like, I will do whatever. Just tell me, like basically free internship. And I just, that's what I wanted to do, was to be like, you have this special skill, or you are just incredible with people, or you are just a phenomenal salesman, or whatever it is. Dude, I'll work for free. I'll mop the floors. I'll do whatever just to be around it, because I'm going to get the next opportunity when I'm already there. And I'm the one who's been building a relationship. I'm trying, I'm learning, I'm asking questions. And then when that job opening opens up, guess what? You think that the person coming in with the application is going to have a faster shot, or the person who already has the relationship?
Mm.
So I would encourage you, just get around it. Get around what gets you excited, and just open yourself up to it. And if that means you're doing other side gigs or stuff that you maybe don't necessarily like initially, being exposed to like the best of whatever's possible for your style is going to make you better faster than if you're just like phoning it in somewhere that doesn't really get you pumped up, right? That whole like excitement is so important if you're like really looking to accelerate growth or like break out of something. So many people who are like stuck in a rut, dude, you work at a place that doesn't vibe with you at all. Like you don't believe in that. Why are you doing that? Oh, they pay well. They've got good benefits. Dude, you're just wasting your own time. Like you're not going to get to where you want to go. No one's going to just magically show up someday and be like, hey, you've been doing your time in here. I know this sucks and I know you're not passionate about it. And you look real worn out. Come on. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like you need to just remove yourself, put yourself in the cooler environment or the better environment, and be like, dude, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to at the very least learn, even if there's not a job opportunity or something, to just learn and apply in your own application elsewhere, in your garage gym or at the park or whatever, to make money.
Yeah,
You'll get better faster.
it happens so quickly too, I mean, you're a young guy and look at you now. Like we're talking about all these life experiences as if you're like an 80-year-old man, like all of these things happened not
feel like
too
it.
long ago. And now you're one of the world's experts in gym marketing, right? And so I guess on that note, where do you see the gym like industry going in like the next 5-10 years? What's the new
Ooh,
sexy?
I like that.
Good question. I think that I think what happened in the last like decade with fitness, with CrossFit, had a huge part in this. I think what Onnit is doing is now like the next kind of step in that, in making functional fitness and just the truth about fitness and nutrition much more available, and most importantly, making it fun for people, because most people just dread working out, because working out in a boring environment, or where there's no social piece, or they're like feeling like I'm constantly getting hurt, or that's not fun for anybody. Fitness has been made fun, and there's plenty of different versions of now the fun stuff with really high quality like programming or like structure to it. And so I think what's going to happen now is that like just health and wellness, like the average overall is going to start to creep up, as long as we can continue to like help gym owners build better businesses. Like I think that the average understanding is going up as to like what it takes to be successful. I know that's all what we do, right? You guys, us, there's a lot of people in this space like trying to educate and like provide information and direction and support to those who are motivated and want to do that. And, I think that people are coming together. Right now, there's a pretty big divide happening, I think, because there's a lot of people who get into this and they get sour, and then they kind of sully it for everybody. But there seems to be a bit of a divide happening with there being really like a motivated, like the cream is getting thicker at the top, and it's getting cooler to be in that cream than it is to be the guy who's like, it's a grind, it's hard, this sucks, you'll never make money. Like that's becoming annoying to hear to like everyone. And so people, I think overall, we're going to see it become much more individualized, first of all, just with technology and with it being much more available to like have something custom. So I think be really aware of that, even for those who run like gyms. Number two, as like technology continues to do what it does, that everything is becoming like depersonalized. Even though we feel like we're more connected, we feel like we're more in like we're having more interactions. They're less meaningful interactions overall. So the value of like face to face and like building a quality relationship is going to go up. So I think putting a focus on becoming just better at relationship building, number one. Number two, understanding that it's going to become more individualized and that is never going to go out of style, to make it about someone specifically rather than just like group. And you can do that in a group environment with gyms. Yeah, and that technology is going to become a bigger part of it too. I think integrating tools is going to become a big part of this for all of us.
Man, there's so much great information in just this episode alone. And obviously you're a leading expert in this field. And so it's great to be able to have you drop these knowledge nuggets and all these amazing topics that people are continuously, I'm sure you get hit up on these questions all the time. I get hit up on these questions all the time. Jess does. And just to be able to provide the information for you guys to hopefully take a couple nuggets away today to make you all successful, kind of going down the road. Because at the end of the day, and we say this almost every time, that we all got into this industry at some point or another to help others, right? And it's shitty to go sour because you're not making it on the business end. And yeah, I mean,
it's a waste.
We pride ourselves on being martyrs and crushing business and crushing hours. But then when you're not happy, then you're not going to help make your clients happy. And in turn, you're losing the path of why you even got into this in the first place, right? So at the end of the day, I mean, you look at both of our businesses, we have businesses set up to help people be better in fitness. 10 years ago, and we all got into this, or I got into it 10 years ago. I don't know what year you got into it.
It was actually about 10 years ago that I started doing this too.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh, 10 years ago, I would have never imagined this was a business opportunity, right? When it was like, oh, you're literally your niche to focusing on helping fitness businesses, right, or trainers be more successful, right? And it's like, wow, what a time to be alive, and that these opportunities prevailed to us because of the experiences that we all had. Yep. And that, we want to make it a mission to help you guys to continually drive that. And I think that helping build fitness up from the bottom up, making trainers better, making them provide better experiences to the clients, helping the gyms be more effective, changes fitness entirely through the holistic realm. And so hopefully you guys are reaching out to Markus and learning about Gym Right and how your gyms can be much more efficiently ran, and in turn giving you the opportunity to be more successful. And you dropped it a minute ago, but it's like if you're looking at buying a gym, like asking the owner, if he's a solopreneur and he's got even a couple part-time coaches, when's the last time you took a vacation? And if he's like, I've never taken a vacation, you're like, oh shit, this place runs off of your
100%
hours, and you're like, okay, red flag right there.
Yep.
Right. And
you're
it's
not
like
buying a business.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to buy into that. Right. Because what am I going to give to it? So, we're really excited that we got to share this with you.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, this was awesome. And I know you already dropped 9 million knowledge nuggets throughout the episode, but we do wrap each episode up with a piece of advice you have for individuals getting into this industry that you feel that can help them be successful from day one.
Wow. I would say understand where you are in the game, and that you're new, and that you have to do the work. You have to earn your stripes, and you don't go from, just like how you don't go from a 100-pound squat to a 400-pound squat overnight. Like, that's a progression with twists and turns and accessory work and step forward, 5 steps backward, and like know that that's how it actually happens. There's that, like, I don't know if it's a meme or a graphic, but it's like how you think it works, which is a straight line, and how it actually goes, and it's like this. and I say that not to discourage, but I say just like buckle up and be willing to do the work that it takes. And sometimes it's going to feel easy, and that's good. Embrace that and channel that, because you don't have to work hard. You can work easy, but that takes practice. Just like how when you're learning a new movement, it's awkward, it's hard. You're like having to really focus on knees, shoulders, and like that same stuff applies to business. It does get easier if you try, and that you put in the time and you put in the reps, and know that it's worth it. I would say the piece of advice would be stay focused on the impact that you're making, and understand that every time you learn a new business skill, whether that's sales or marketing or whatever that is, that's enabling you to make the impact that you set out to start, right? Because you got into this probably because you care about people, you want to change people's lives, it changed your life, you want to bring this to your community, you want to make a happier, healthier, overall community, which is going to have healthier, happier kids who move better. Like when you really think about your why, think about if I don't get myself together when it comes to business and I don't like learn these things and I don't learn how to like also be a good business person, even if it's just you're just a one person show as a trainer, that's fine. You can make a great living and make a great impact in your marketplace, but that you are doing all those people you could have helped a disservice because now you're not going to be there to do it because you burned yourself out too early.
Holy shit! How I can't flip this table; it's too heavy.
I know. I wish, like, when I was a trainer, I never wanted to open a gym and I never wanted to manage a gym. But fuck, if I would have known you back then, that might have been a different story. I mean, may not have been sitting here today, but damn, that was awesome. Where can people find you and stalk you and reach out to you and hopefully get to stare at those dreamy blues?
Oh, these old things. No, just find me on social media. You can find us gymwright.com. It's GYMWRIGHT.com. You can find any of the social handles there, or you can just look me up and shoot me a direct message if you have any questions via Facebook, Markus Gerszi.
What about the network?
Yeah, with
the
a K.
Is the network available to the public yet?
Oh, yeah. So we have, so we just launched our new private Facebook group, which is basically a private group. It's totally free, but it is for motivated gym owners only, in that this is not a place to come and gripe about how hard it is. I don't want to hear about this, beverage company versus that beverage company. This is where the motivated gym owners of our space are coming together to help each other move this entire thing forward. And we have our Gym Right business coaches in there moderating and making sure that there's good, sound information being shared. We're starting conversations. We're asking questions. We're also moderating the spirit of the group to make sure it stays positive and people aren't in there griping like we have so many forums in our space where just people bitch about companies, about service, about how hard this is, and about, can you believe this member said this? You won't find that in the network.
Nice.
So if that's what you're looking for, go elsewhere. But if you're looking for a supportive community, these are all abundance mindset, like forward thinking people who are willing to share their best trick, so that because you share your best trick, your best trick that you just do inherently could change someone's business and life permanently, because they're like, I never thought to do it that way. Guess what? I can guarantee you there's someone in that group that has your trick that you need that's going to be just shared openly. So that's what the group's all about. And plus we do our new show in there every Friday. I have basically like how we did the podcast previously, but I do it live. So I either do an interview or it's an educational piece. And we do it live because I want people to actually ask questions at the end. So we teach a subject. As a matter of fact, Jessica's going to be on next week's episode. And I'm not sure when this airs, but you can go check it out and watch it back because it stays in there. But we're going to do the episode live and we'll have our discussion. But at the end of it, people can then ask questions to Jessica or I, and we can actually apply it to their scenario. Because one of the big takeaways for me doing the Barbell Business podcast is that we would teach some really good stuff. We'd have a really great interview with someone. And then Jessica, I think were actually initially on the receiving end of like the inbound when people would like ask questions. But then I managed it as well. And those engagements when people are like, hey, I'm in a small town and how does that apply to me? Or, hey, I don't have a full-time person. What do I do? And like being able to translate it into that application were some of the most meaningful exchanges for me personally. And the takeaway is like, I need to be able to do this and answer your questions on the spot. So if you're interested in, learning how to build a good gym and being around other really supportive and motivated gym owners, check out the network on Facebook. And like I said, it's totally free, but no bad attitudes. And yeah,
it's a community.
Be willing to share.
That's what I love about it. It's like we're not going to know the answers to all these questions. What is a gym marketing strategy for a village of 200 people? I don't know. I've never lived in a village full of 200 people, with a gym on my hands. But there may be somebody in the network who does. And I love that it creates this empowering kind of like voice for everyone, because everyone can be an expert in something, whether you're just
Everybody
starting
is
out.
an expert in something, and they have that thing that they can share. And that, again, you could change someone's life with that little hack or that little trick where you're like, oh, that's just something I came up with on my own. I didn't learn that, or maybe you did learn it, whatever. But like, that's what it's all about. It's that you can contribute. And there is someone who's had a gym and a tribe of 200 or something close enough to give you some guidance that you're going to learn a ton. Yeah.
One guy had asked, it was a really interesting question that I just saw pop up this morning, was like, I'm a Christian and I'm having a hard time finding music that like doesn't, offend my members or, some of our beliefs, but also is like awesome and stuff like that. And people just showed up with playlists. I was like,
Right?
what? No way. Like, that's such a random question. And
Yeah.
people were ready and willing.
Yeah.
That was badass.
It's really cool.
Congratulations on that. That's not easy to
you.
cultivate community so quickly. I mean, you guys are like 500 members or so.
Yeah, I think we just broke 600 members
Cool.
yesterday, and the group's only been up for like 4 weeks.
And these are gym owners. These aren't people who are like looking to start these are people who are like doing it, right?
Yeah, for the most part, I think there's probably a handful of people in there who are like on the cusp, like people who are managers at gyms who are like trying to break into becoming gym owners. But it's really meant for those who are like already in a position to do something with it, and not just ask, like, hey, how do I start a gym? That's not
Okay,
really what
yep.
this forum is for.
Yep.
Perfect. So you can find the network at, I guess by searching in the search bar, the network by Jim Wright. Is that right?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can search it that way. You can just go to jimwright.com. We have a link to it on our website too. So wherever you find it.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. And those will all be in the show notes for y'all.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining the Fitness Break Room.
Thanks again for listening to the Fitness Break Room podcast, everybody. You can follow us on Instagram at Fitness Break Room. And if you're looking to enter our monthly fitness swag giveaway, you can visit our website, fitnessbreakroom.com, and all that info's on the homepage. Hundreds of dollars worth of awesome stuff, so I wouldn't miss that. And then you can even subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and leave us a review if you're digging what we're bringing you. That would be awesome and very helpful. Okay, guys, have a beautiful week. Stay strong and always look out for the little guy.